Welcome back to another episode of Capital H. In today's episode, we look at the impact of AI on the workforce, how companies are responding in real time, what TechWolf's analysis of 2 billion job postings reveals about changing skills and tasks, and how leaders can use these insights to drive smarter reskilling and upskilling strategies. I'm joined with Mick, one of the co-founders of TechWolf. Mick, thank you for joining us at Capital H. Can you first start just by introducing yourself and sharing a little bit about who TechWolf is and what you all do for our listeners?
All right. Thanks, Kyle. Super happy to be here. So I'm Mick. I'm one of the three founders of TechWolf. Started the business about 7 years ago in Belgium. Moved to the US 1 year ago. So I'm leading our US operations here now. We've been growing really well here. And so in a nutshell, TechWolf is a data layer for HR. We do two things: skills intelligence and work intelligence. On the skills intelligence side, we help our customers understand the skills they have, the skills they need. On the work intelligence side, we help our customers understand how work gets done, how that's changing, and that ultimately all feeds into the talent strategy and into their workforce plan.
Your business sits at the intersection of two incredibly important trends in the domain of not only the HR profession, but work at large, right? Skills, right? Which for the past 5, 6, 7 years has been one of the most, I think, hotly invested in, hotly debated fields. And then in the last 12 to 18 months, work and tasks. So can you share a little bit about what the evolution of that market has looked like for TechWolf as well, for kind of where you started in terms of supporting customers and now some of what you're focusing on?
Yeah, 100%. And I'd say the skills market, in a way, is going through a hype cycle as well. If you look at Agile, it was the same. First, Agile was going to change the world, and now everybody just does it. It's not special anymore. I feel like the skill-based organization is going through a very similar motion, especially during COVID and then post-COVID with the war for talent. There was this massive hype, and I'd say the main use case for TechWolf was skills visibility. A lot of organizations invested a lot in talent technology and still didn't know the skills their people had. So that was the number one problem TechWolf solved. As we started working with more and more customers, that offering evolved. I'd say the biggest shift in the market is probably one, interest rates went up. And so that changed the investment landscape for companies, but also for some of our competitors. And then two, AI. And I think especially since 2025, with the advent of the reasoning models, it's very clear that it's going to change work really quickly. And so the way we're looking at the market now is, if you take the task level view, it's phenomenal to understand how work gets done and most importantly, how AI will impact that work. So if you take the task level view, you can essentially make task level predictions on whether or not that work will be augmented with AI, will be automated by AI, or just will remain human. On the skill side, I'd say the skill-based organization has matured a bit into, hey, there's a couple of talent processes that are just better and that work better when you take the skills-based view instead of the job-based view. So mobility is proven, learning is proven, recruitment is proven. And so essentially we support our customers by translating those job-based processes into skill-based processes. And so in recruitment, you see that there's about a 30% reduction in time to hire. Mobility, internal hiring rates go up by 50%. You can reduce your cost of learning. So I'd say the skill-based organization has matured as a concept. The skills intelligence market has matured. And then the work intelligence market is just starting. And it's very exciting to be there.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things that you all released recently, the Workforce Intelligence Index, really made a big splash, right? Relative to more than 2 billion job postings of data that you all analyzed, the ability to actually link some of the tasks to work into some of the where are the AI impact implications, what work will humans kind of focus on that is uniquely human versus where will the tools and technology augment. Can you share, like, what were some of the insights and findings that you all were seeing as you analyze this data and as you prepared to bring it to market? And then what's some of the reception been today?
So yeah, totally. And I'd say reflecting on this, I'm an AI engineer myself. There's almost two camps in the AI world. One camp says AI is going to change the world completely. We'll have super intelligence next year, next month. And then the other camp is more cautious, says, hey, the current LLM paradigms don't work. And so what we wanted to do is analyze the data, look at the data today and see what is actually happening today. And so there's a few interesting findings when we look across the data of 1,500 companies. One, about 31% of the workforce is impacted today. Two, about 38% of tasks can be enhanced by AI. And then probably the most interesting finding, about 75% of skills is changing completely. And so the main finding there is work doesn't necessarily get automated completely. There's very few jobs that get completely automated, but the tasks do get automated. And so what we wanted to do is shed some light on what those tasks are and how companies can start thinking about how skills are changing, how tasks are changing, and then how that feeds into a workforce plan.
Yeah. Well, and I think in what you shared, it just highlights the importance and the interconnectedness of these two topics, right? If I do these three tasks, there's a skill that I need, right?
Exactly.
And if one or two or three of those tasks are enhanced by or impacted by AI and automation in some form or fashion, I might need more of that skill. I might need less of that skill, right? So that is now data and insights that an organization can use to say, I invest in this technology. Here's the implication. Now, how do I upskill, reskill, redeploy my people?
And that's exactly what we're seeing in the data as well. By linking skills to every task, you can essentially create a distribution for every skill. To what extent are the tasks related to the skill being augmented, automated, or human? And so you see that today some skills are becoming completely irrelevant. There's no point in denying that. There's no point in walking circles around that. At the same time, there's a lot of skills that are just changing, where augmentation is probably the dominant factor. And so understanding how skills are changing and how you can upskill your people is probably the most important strategy. And so across our customer base, I'd say there's two intersecting trends. So one, a lot of hiring freezes or things of that nature. And then at the same time, a heavy push to invest in AI with the expectation of cost savings or the expectations of additional growth. And so our customers are realizing, wait, if we're expected to grow a lot and we're also expecting these massive productivity increases with AI, it might be smarter to start strategically thinking about redeploying our talent instead of just firing and hiring.
Yeah. And I think part of what you're getting into as well is the intersection of multiple other trends, right? Because when I'm out in the market engaging with HR leaders, business leaders, et cetera, depending on the industry that the company's in, they might have already been facing talent shortages for a while, right? Relative to the skilled labor needed to
Yep.
deliver the work, right? Whether it's something like construction, manufacturing, nursing, other, or you look at fields where the workforce demographic might actually be aging, petroleum engineers in oil and gas companies or other things, right? So there might be all sorts of different reasons why you have to have a sense of where is the work headed, where are the skills headed, how does this link with my talent pools, and how do I make smart investments not only in the technology, but in the humans, the talent pipeline, right? And now you've got more data at hands through what you all are offering to help make smarter business decisions.
100%. And I'd say the core idea there is it's very different for every industry and for every company. And so there's no point in taking these generalist approaches. You need to understand what's happening in your company. And then based on that, you can inform your talent strategy.
Yeah. And the other thing I feel like you shared earlier relative to 31% of tasks impacted today and where things might, like if we were to record this 6 months from now, it might be 38%, it might be 45%, right? Because the technology capabilities continue to evolve at pace. But you can then go out to your workforce and say, hey, workforce, this is where we see you in these roles, where we think we have the implications of your work. So how do we start to get the workforce engaged in redesigning their own work or getting ready to redeploy elsewhere? So what are some of the things you're seeing your customers do now with some of the data that you all are bringing forward to execute on some of that kind of reskill or redeployment strategy?
So there's a couple of things our customers are doing. I'd say it probably falls into three buckets. So one, reskilling and upskilling. Two, looking at their strategic workforce plan in totality. Do we buy, do we build, do we bot? And then the third one is work redesign. The general practice of realizing, wait, our work is changing massively, is going to change massively, it's going to continue to change massively. So what do our jobs look like? How do we redesign work across those changing tasks? How do we create much more of a human AI partnership in certain roles? And as you mentioned, how do we redeploy people around that? But then at the same time, we're also seeing that a lot of HR leaders are very much in the let's figure this out stage. We are running an early adopter program with some of our leading customers because in January, we realized this is going to be really big and it's going to happen way faster than we originally anticipated. So this isn't a situation where you can hide, build a product for 2 years and then come to the market. We realized we needed something quickly. And so we just put together our, say, most innovative customers and started working with them together. First on the diagnosis part, how does AI impact the workforce? I feel like we have a good grip on how to guide customers there. But then the most important part is the prescription. You've diagnosed that you're sick. How do you get better? How do you actually take some workforce actions if you know that work is going to be automated? And so Upskilling and reskilling is very important, and redeployment as a second big one. And then overall workforce redesign is probably top of mind for most leaders.
Yeah, it's interesting, hearing from various analysts in the market, research firms, Deloitte, our research, other professional service firms, a big push for organizations to think about the redesign, right? How do you do work in new and different ways to drive business outcomes? And then when I talk to a number of organizations, for some of them, it is just actually being clear there is some automation that companies yet have not taken advantage of. And they need to do that. And they actually need to say to the workforce, it is okay. Some of the things we're going to start with is going to be automation. But by doing some of this automation, we're going to create the capacity to get you, the worker, the manager, involved in the actual redesign to get the extra productivity unlock, right? But again, all that comes back down to understanding which type of AI or automation capability is impacting the task and what skills are associated with the task to thus lead into some of that work redesign.
Yeah, totally. And so in the industry, I hear a lot of talk around, is it tasks or is it skills? Frankly, for me, that conversation is completely irrelevant. It's a data point, and it's a data point that is used in different use cases. So the task-based view is really interesting if you're thinking about understanding the impact of AI. The skill-based view is, quite frankly, needed when you're thinking about upskilling and reskilling your workforce. So what we're trying to do right now is just give our customers the data, give them clarity, and then based on that clarity, they can inform their talent strategy.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's a very fair kind of push and call to action to leaders. Don't spend time in analysis paralysis of, do I have the right, is this task framework, skill framework? Is it both? Is it other? Like, there's enough data available out there, and or you can get it for your company to just go start, right? Start small if you have to, make progress, get yourself on the roadmap. And so, Mick, I'd love to hear, right, TechWolf been around for 7 years, as you've shared. I know there's been some tremendous momentum for you all as an organization. As you look across your customer set, what are some of the innovative things you've seen people doing with access to this data to drive value in new and different ways for their organizations?
So it's probably the first time ever where I see our customers get a real seat at the table. And so I've had multiple conversations with the CIO, the CHRO, the CTO, and the CFO, all part of one group, essentially at one table, trying to figure out how are we going to lead the organization through this massive wave of change. So what we're seeing is that we're arming HR leaders with the data and the insights to have those conversations in an educated way, to challenge their leaders. I had one CHRO tell me, look, I do not want AI transformation to be a CFO topic or a CIO topic, because all they care about is automate. We have to make sure that the human element stays central and that we essentially ensure that our employees are guided through this massive change. And so that's probably the biggest one, being invited to the strategic conversation and being able to challenge their fellow business leaders. On the more tactical side, it's being able to just guide employees through this massive wave, being very proactive instead of reactive in upskilling and reskilling their employees. I think that's pretty cool. And I'd say if you look at like how AI changes is happening, there's a massive amount of new startups being created that are going after one to multiple tasks. And then there's the ever increasing push of the foundational model. And so everybody gets this baseline productivity uplift by just being able to work with foundational models. And at the same time, organizations are also trying to figure out where and how do we implement technology to get those really big productivity gains. And so being able to help, one, the organization figure out how to make those decisions, and two, help employees get upskilled in the age of AI is probably the most rewarding thing to see, and also where we see the biggest impact.
Yeah, well, I think there's a few things I want to just kind of highlight and double down on what you just shared. One is companies where it is collaboration in the C-suite, right? The combination of CHRO, CIO, CFO, CTO, right? To truly demonstrate, number one, this is an enterprise mandate. It's not tied to one particular executive. And number two, you're going to have the right set of business expertise, business metrics, business outcomes that you're driving in a coordinated fashion to deliver on new and different things for the end customers of whatever that business might be. And then I think the second thing, what you shared relative to getting the workforce themselves engaged in this, right? If your C-suite team is aligned and coordinated and engaged, it is that much more likely your workforce will be engaged. And if your workforce is engaged, you can actually drive the adoption of new behaviors, new ways of working. Here's what the role of today looks like tomorrow and a year from now. Please help us redesign it. And by the way, as you use the tools, tell us. So we are knowing that we're investing in the right thing. And we then continue to invest as a C-suite in all of those initiatives.
Mm-hmm. One really interesting example I also saw, this was a VP of talent at a semiconductor company responsible for the entire AI transformation. She did a lot of the task mapping, AI impact assessment work herself. And one of the points she made was, look, I want to understand where the pockets of automation potential are, because what I'm seeing in my organization is right now everybody's automating and augmenting in silos instead of running enterprise programs. And so it started in the beginning of the year with Moderna merging the HR and IT departments, but I see the best HR leaders today really almost stepping into the IT role and becoming a much more strategic top partner to the rest of the organization.
Yeah, which I think at large is, regardless of where you sit as an executive, if you are not keeping a level of technical fluency, right, as a personal priority plus for your function, you just have to understand how this is to be credible with your peers and to be credible in front of the workforce, right? And I think hopefully any CHROs, HR leaders, others listening who are like, I don't have a technical background. That's also okay. The speed at which you can pick up some of this information, whether that's using your favorite LLM model to like query and answer or engaging with your vendors or others, like there's enough information out there for you to get moving as long as you as a leader are curious and show up and put in the effort.
Yeah. And everybody's overwhelmed. So I have a degree in engineering. We run an AI company. And in the beginning of the year, I had to realize like, wow, I am behind and I need to start upskilling myself. And I'd say most founders, I'd say everybody is a little bit overwhelmed. The rate of change is massive. So there's no point in not admitting that to yourself, because that's probably the number one thing that's hindering a lot of people to truly upskill themselves. Everybody's overwhelmed.
Yeah. Well, and someone put it to me in a fascinating way around, if you think about fight or flight reactions, like just built into the human brain, the number of things that have been hitting the world at large over the last few years has almost left everyone in this perpetual state of fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
But if you recognize that and then you take a moment to step back to say, okay, knowing that I might feel like I'm in an overwhelmed fight or flight status, what are some actions I can take as an individual? What can I then do with my team to help be more intentional so that we can avoid being overwhelmed? And some of that, to your point, is how do I carve time in my calendar to upskill myself? So Mick, it's been a 7-year journey to where you all are. You've been in the thick of, to your point, building, founding, driving momentum at the company at the intersection of two incredible trends in the market. As you look forward, right, if we were sitting here a year from now, what are some of the things that are on your radar that are kind of keeping your eye out for either new capabilities that you all want to like build to deliver to customers, or things that you expect customers will begin demanding of their partners in the market?
So there's a couple of things. I'd say zooming out as a business, we want to do 3 things and like almost contribute to society in 3 ways. We've released a lot of open source research. Our AI models have recently been downloaded over 1 million times. We're going to keep publishing our AI models. One, for a couple of reasons, but the main reason being, we want to make sure that even HR organizations without big budgets can already start doing something. The AI transformation is happening. It's here. So there's almost no excuse to not move at all. 2, we want to make sure that our data and the data that we've been collecting for almost a decade now is being put to use. So the Workforce Intelligence Index, there's a lot more releases like that coming where we just want to contribute to the public debate, if you will, to essentially move away from either gut feel or fear mongering and really have a data-backed conversation. On the product side, I'd say the skills intelligence market is maturing. And what we're seeing there is, again, the same trend that you see with any technology. We're moving from the innovators and the early adopters to the early majority. And frankly, most people just want business problems solved. And so making sure that we can really easily get our customer to a business outcome with skills data is one of the key pillars in the product strategy there. And then secondly, when it comes to the work intelligence market, the AI impact assessment, there's a couple of avenues we're exploring, but I'd say the commitment we've made internally is essentially work together super closely with the customer. The market is changing so quickly, AI is changing so quickly, it's almost impossible to predict what's happening. So the best way to go about that is to just go shoulder to shoulder with your customers and just iterate really quickly. So I'd say our product velocity has never been this high because one, AI coding helps a ton. Two, we're super close to customers. And three, we're continuously shipping and iterating. What I will share is that what we're seeing right now is that the diagnosis part works really well. The prescription part, the action part is going to be next. When selling data to any company, the most important part is getting your customers from data to insights to action. That insight and action part is really where we're spending a lot of time and effort. It should be really easy to have a GPS for your workforce. And I'd say that's probably what we're building right now, and we're very close to it.
Awesome. Okay, so Mick, you've shared a perspective on kind of what's ahead for the company, some of the things that you're seeing in the market. But let's also take a little bit of a look backwards. Like, what are some of the lessons learned for rolling out skills, rolling out task data to your customers? Some things that other organizations might keep in mind as they prepare to embark on these journeys?
Yeah, totally. I think we've probably done over 50 skills programs now with probably the biggest organizations in the world. There's a couple. I'm going to name some customers because I feel like they are doing amazing work. So Red Hat is one example that comes to mind. The core lesson there is start in a safe space. I think the learning organization was the ideal landing spot because we had a very strong leader that understood what the business problem was. We were experimenting together, getting to first wins, and that's when we started thinking about scaling. So there's often this question on, should we go all out? Should we start small? For most organizations, the key message is start small, book a win, then expand. Second one is Workday. Workday has been a customer for a long time. We were able to reduce the time to hire in their entire workforce by 32% by implementing skill-based recruitment. And I feel like they did a couple of things exceptionally well. One, they put the business problem first. So they went after recruiting in their sales organization. They showed that it worked, and then they scaled up. Two, they had a phenomenal attention to detail when it came to just measuring business impact. And then probably the third learning is IQVIA. IQVIA is a big healthcare data provider, about 70,000 employees. They realized that a skills project without broad business support is not going to go anywhere. So what they realized was, especially when scaling skills, they needed to make the CFO care. And what made the CFO care was the AI transformation. I'd say the big opportunity for a lot of HR leaders today is that the AI transformation in and of itself is a skills transformation. So being able to clearly demonstrate how an HR project contributes to the AI agenda will make it much easier to get funded, will make it much easier to get broad business support. And there's so many more, but I'll leave it at 3.
Awesome. And if I were to then take a couple things to just double down and reemphasize for the listeners, right? Number one, whether you're starting an initiative and it's a skills initiative or a task initiative, make sure you're tying it to a business problem, right? I think that's like the simple, make sure so that the business doesn't view this as another HR initiative for HR, but they see business value from it, right? Go book that win, show the progress, get the credibility to then proceed and expand and scale from there.
That's it. It's that easy. No. But in all seriousness, if I could reflect on all the programs and projects that went well, the programs that went well all had this one thing in common. They had support from the business. If you're seen as just an HR project, it's going to be an uphill battle. So business comes first.
Yeah. Well, Mick, maybe for our non-engineer background technical listeners, what's one piece of advice you'd leave people for just their own personal upskilling journey, right? How are you upskilling yourself? What's a piece of advice you'd give people to just, hey, go get started, right?
So whether it's a hobby project or another deliverable, try to use AI, try to find a startup, try to vibe code something yourself just to get a sense of what is out there. It's going to be a little bit difficult, but I saw a startup recently say that we want to make it easy for 10-year-olds to design an application. I'd say that's probably my biggest learnings. Like, try to build something yourself, even if you're a non-engineer, and especially if you're a non-engineer, because it will give you a sense of how powerful AI can be. And then try to follow some thought leaders that speak. I think Ethan Mollick is a really good one. There's plenty of people writing. Kyle, you're writing a ton on AI. But try to just like you read the news, I think, especially in these times, being up to date and current on what's happening in the world of AI will just make you a better leader.
So Mick, you've shared as a founder the need to upskill yourself to avoid feeling like you're falling behind on what's going on in the market. Is there something that's caught your eye recently that you think folks should be aware of that they also need to consider for their own either individual journeys or for the organization?
Yes, I'd say I recently had a big realization, which was I was underestimating the pace of change yet again. And I came across this really interesting blog by an OpenAI researcher that is titled Failing to Understand the Exponential Again. And his entire argument is, hey guys, during COVID, we all underestimated what exponential growth truly looked like. We all know the results. And that same exponential growth that our human brain is having a very hard time at computing is happening again in AI. And not everywhere, but there's one specific metric that he's looking at, and that's the length of a task that AI can do autonomously without human intervention. And that's doubling about once every 7 months. And so I think the latest figure that came out was an Anthropic model being able to code autonomously for 30 hours. And that's massive. It was only a couple of seconds and a couple of minutes 2 years ago. So that exponential growth is not going to stop. It doesn't look like it's going to stop.
Yeah. Well, and if I link that back then to the intelligence index, right? Today, you're seeing, again, certain percentage of task disruption. 6 months from now, it'll be different.
It will be different.
6 months after that, it'll be different again, right? Because if you can say today a task can go 30 minutes, where 6 months in the past, it was, or not 30 minutes, 30 hours. in 6 months ago, it might have been minutes, right? In the future, we're talking multiple days a week, multiple weeks, right? And so that has significant implications for workflows and to nature of the workflow you can achieve and everything along those lines. Mick, this has been a tremendous conversation, I think, full of insights relative to the journey that TechWolf has had, what you all are seeing at the intersection of skills and work and tasks, your own perspective as a founder to keep yourself upskilled, things that you're seeing in the market. So I truly appreciate you joining Capital H to share some insights with our listeners, because as AI continues to transform the world of work and data, it's going to be critical. Both individuals and teams and organizations are adapting, they're reskilling, they're preparing for what's next. So folks, be sure that you stay tuned for more conversations on the evolving world of work. And Mick, thank you again for taking the time to sit down with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
This podcast is produced by Deloitte. The views and opinions expressed by podcast speakers and guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of Deloitte. This podcast provides general information only and is not intended to constitute advice or services of any kind. For additional information about Deloitte, please go to deloitte.com/about.